Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another podcast. Build your library. Now, in the previous podcast, I talked about there's no real excuse for ignorance. Now, and of course, I talked about all the sources that you can go to get information. But really, what every man should be doing is having a library. In fact, if you notice, like if you ever watch some of those TV shows where you have some billionaire or something, shoot, they invest a lot in a library. They invest a lot. I mean, they'll have a whole room dedicated to it. See, when I make my million, or few millions, or billion, I'm gonna have a big old house, fortified, of course, because I don't want none of my cousins visiting. And I'm going to have just a whole room just as a library. And any visitors come to the house that I allow to the place, if they can't leave the room, I have an armed guard in there. I'll protect that. I'm going to tell you what, libraries are important because that's where you hold books. Now, it's one thing to, read different articles and get knowledge, but the thing about books is that knowledge is right there. Yeah, of course, on social media or like on the internet, you can favorite play stuff, but a lot of times those are articles. When you get books, that's knowledge, and it's two things. One, you get whatever the author is presenting, so you can go through that, underline it, has sticky tabs, all of that stuff, and you can always refer to it. It's like having a person right there who knows that, like they talking to you. That's one thing, books talk to you. I mean, people try to say they're objective, but it's like you're speaking with that person. It might even take a personality. Like, I don't know if other people do this, but when I read a book, I kind of imagine the person speaking in, their voice tone, their personality, and all of that. Now, and also, like I said, with the books, the information is right there. You can always refer to it. Now, that's primary, but if it's like a nonfiction book, it should have footnotes. It should have footnotes, even if it's opinion, maybe some footnotes involved, unless it's something like personal advice or something like my books are. But if it's supposedly a scholarly type of book, it'll have footnotes. So that's more knowledge for you, and then you can look into that. And you want to develop that, and, depending on what your area of interest in, because, like with me, I have books on everything from, spirituality, economics, history, esoteric stuff, everything. And, it's interesting. I thought about like showing my books in a video, but then I was like, no. I don't want any profilers to have too much of an idea into my personality, because that's one thing too. You can get an idea about a person and their philosophy of life, their ideologies, by the types of books they read. And it's very important. That's why in repressive regimes, they're not above burning some books, because books are ideas. Books can spur you to action. In fact, whenever there's military coups or any overthrow of any governments, a lot of times the journalists, anybody who can create ideas, are the first to go, because you read something in a book and then maybe apply it. But the main thing is you read it. It starts having you think about things. It gives you ideas. It gives you thoughts. It might be, you might have some books and you might have been working on something, but some obscure book from 1975 or something has the answer, and it spurs you to action. You actually create neural pathways by reading. So you want to build up that library. You want to have it as that knowledge. You want to have it as that place where, if you have a question or you have a question, you can say, let me go look at this book. This is talking about that. Or maybe you read a news article, since y'all reading stuff on the internet, or you look at that. Or maybe a lot of people are talking about a possible economic downturn. You might have some books on economics and stuff. Like I said, it should be in your area. And, I've always talked about men having, a vocation, a craft, you should have some books in that area if that's what you're interested in. And that's one of the reasons why I ain't want to really show my bookcase, because, like I said, I don't need the wrong people to know what I'm doing. Because then they'll be like, oh, wait a minute, he's reading that? Oh, snap. Like I said, if you talk to anybody, like I've mentioned before, I used to sell books at this vendor's market, flea market, whatever you want to call it. And it was interesting. I could tell a lot about a person by which books they gravitated towards. Like if they gravitated towards some books, because I had a range of books from what I called, or what me and other bookstore owners called, bubblegum fiction, to some really deep esoteric stuff. So no matter what, if whatever side they gravitated towards, I was like, okay, let me change it up. If they gravitated towards the bubblegum side, I kept the conversation very basic. If they gravitated towards the deep stuff, then it's like, oh, okay, let me get into it. And, it gives, and the thing about that is just having that knowledge. It is a source of power. I'm going to talk about that in my next podcast, my Monday podcast. But you want to build it and take your time. And look, here's something. Because I found this with some people. Don't be that type who get a book just to show up your bookcase. Some of y'all fellas, don't get some books just to try to act like you intelligent in front of a woman. First of all, it ain't going to impress her, really. Unless she's on that intellectual thing, it's not going to impress her. And two, if it does impress her and she started asking, she grab a random book she asked about, you can't tell her about it, boom. Now, it's interesting I'm saying that, I'm directing that to the guys, but I've actually met some women. They would have stuff on their bookcase. I'll be like, you read this book? They'd be like, no. I'm like, why is it here? I'll be the one reading it. I knock them out. I know what I mean. I knock them out. I don't have nothing to do. Shit, I gotta wait for them to wake up. So I was just like, oh man, dang, let me read this book here. I don't feel like going any place. Legs a little weak. Y'all understand that. So it's like, oh man, it's interesting. You start talking to them about it, like they don't know. Don't be that person, yo. Don't be that person. Be that person. If you get it, it means something. Now, here's the beauty of it. Like, say you that person, you cash strapped. It's tough out there. You might not be in a position to have a whole bunch of books. Even if you got your own space, no telling what's going on there. You might have those type of kids. You might have kids or something. They might be the type to chew on it, be teething and stuff on a book. I actually have a book. One of my sons, he actually used it to, to teeth on. It's like, yeah, at least it's a book. But, if you can't really afford it, or, you want to check out some stuff, do what I do. Because every single book that I have or read, I don't have them now. Some I've sold. Some I made a mistake of letting somebody hold it. But there's a whole lot of books or subjects I'll look at and I say, I don't know if I want to hold on to it, but I'm interested in the subject. It's 2 words. Library card. Like, if you can't have it, you can still go read it. Or, if you cash strapped a little bit and you want to wait. And I've been there before. Sometimes you get some book and, be a while before the paperback. It might be a hardcover, $30-something. And yeah, it's tight. That can be tight if it's tight for you, but you want to read it. Get it at the library. Just get it at the library. Read it. You might be able to just get it later on if you have to. And sometimes you might want to read something and, you go through it and it might have some information, but it's not the type that you want to revisit necessarily. Because you still, unless you do have that big old room where you can just put books in, it's going to be restricted. And I'm one of those types, I read a lot. So I have to be very careful which ones I get and don't get. So anyway, build that library, y'all. So anyway, that's all I got for now. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace and blessings.